Russia tears apart NATO's shield, a series of mercenaries killed. Putin strikes at the heart of Kiev's weapons center. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GS Sai Gon TV. The Ukrainian battlefield is ablaze more fiercely than ever as the Russian army launches an unprecedented large-scale destructive strike since the beginning of summer. Within a full 24 hours, Moscow unleashed a storm of firepower on 146 hotspots, concentrating international mercenaries, UAV depots and Ukrainian forward bases. From Donbass to central Poltava, Iskander missiles, Garin UAVs, and Grad multiple rocket launchers simultaneously opened fire, destroying many key strongholds and even penetrating the Patriot system, the West's most advanced defense symbol. No longer a deterrent strike, this is a strategic declaration. Russia is not just counter-attacking but is preparing to wipe out Kiev's entire high-tech resistance infrastructure, paving the way for the next breakthrough phase. Let's peel back the layers of truth in this special report. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any important developments. In the early morning amidst the silent night of the Poltava region, Ukraine's main defense industrial center, the entire sky suddenly lit up with fierce explosions. Russia launched a synchronized attack using Iskander missile systems and Garin kamikaze UAVs, directly targeting what was considered Kiev's last shield, the U-supplied Patriot air defense system. According to sources from Telegram and GP Ruska and the military newspaper Argumenty I Fakti, the attack was meticulously planned and executed at the most critical time, in the middle of the night, when the entire defense system is usually at its most vulnerable. The target of the attack was none other than the Patriot deployment units near Kremenkuk, a city where oil refineries, military truck workshops, equipment repair stations, and many other strategic facilities serving Ukraine's war machine are concentrated. Although there are no official images confirming that Patriot radars or launchers were hit, many independent sources from both Russia and Ukraine indicate that the damage is severe. Some areas at the scene were completely sealed off, and there was no communication signal for many hours after the attack, military experts noted. This is not merely a destructive blow, but a precise strike at the Achilles heel of the Western air defense system, even though Patriot constantly changes its position to evade attacks. But against a coordinated attack involving kamikaze UAVs used for jamming and radar bait, and high-speed Iskander missiles used for lethal strikes, all defensive tactics become ineffective. What makes this attack particularly serious is that it occurred right next to a cluster of defense factories believed to be producing equipment at maximum capacity to supply the fronts in Donbass and Kharkiv once Patriot is destroyed or at least neutralized in the area. Ukraine's entire logistics system, repair factories, and weapons transport will be exposed and easily become targets in subsequent attacks. This is not just a conventional act of sabotage but a warning from Moscow. Even America's sacred weapons are not enough to protect Ukraine as Russia shifts to a strategy of picking off each link in the logistics and defense chain. Forest stronghold wiped out. Russian fire destroys Krasnoa defense line. No more hiding places, no more safe zones. Amidst the dense forests of the Krasnoa region, a camouflaged stronghold, considered impenetrable by the Ukrainian army, was completely destroyed in just a few minutes by Grad artillery barrages as precise as laser cuts. According to information from the Russian Ministry of Defense, a special reconnaissance unit secretly tracked and identified the coordinates of the Nwentrang area, where Ukraine had established a defensive network with bunkers, ammunition depots, and deep underground tunnels in the forest. This was once a stronghold for one of the most seasoned combat brigades, tasked with blocking the advance from eastern Donbass. Immediately after the coordinates were sent back, the Grad multiple rocket launcher system was deployed. And in an instant, the entire forest was engulfed in a firestorm. Videos released by the Russian side show artillery barrages fired erratically, but with extreme precision, neatly and decisively destroying each defensive line. There was no resistance, no distress signals, just deadly silence after the roaring explosions. The victory at Krasnoa is not only tactical but also clearly reflects the transformation in the Russian army's reconnaissance and fire coordination capabilities. If previously Russia was said to shell according to maps, now they hit weak points, attacking from within the system's core, making even well-camouflaged defensive lines unable to survive. The loss of the Krasnoa stronghold puts Ukraine in an extremely dangerous situation. The defense line, once a protective layer around the central Donbass region, has now been torn open from the center, creating a gap for infantry units. This could be the beginning of a siege along the Krasnoa, Pokrovsk, Dnipro axis, where Moscow hopes to open a corridor to approach central Ukraine. From a hidden point in the forest, Ukraine lost its entire defense line, while Russia, with just a few Kras barrages, opened up a crucial strategic entry point. Russian firepower chokes Ukraine's eye in the sky, 41 UAV control stations wiped out. The technological war in the Ukrainian sky is entering a new, fierce, and unforgiving phase. On the Western Front, The Russian combat group commanded by General Leonid Sarov has just launched a decisive preemptive strike, not targeting military personnel but directly aiming at the electronic brain of the Ukrainian army. According to information from the Russian Ministry of Defense, within just 24 hours, this force eliminated over 220 soldiers, destroyed 3 armored fighting vehicles, 1 self-propelled artillery piece, and over 10 motorized vehicles. But the fatal blow lay elsewhere. 25 UAVs were shot down, along with 41 UAV control stations and 4 electronic warfare stations completely wiped out. This is one of the heaviest losses Ukraine's UAV system has suffered since the beginning of this year. The control stations, which were the command centers for hundreds of reconnaissance and kamikaze UAVs, have now become an absolute priority target in Russia's eye strike tactic. Once the UAV command system is destroyed, Ukraine's entire network of observation, coordination, and tactical response will immediately be blinded. Fierce fighting is taking place at hotspots such as Andreyevka, Kupiansk, Sandrogalovo, and Drobyshev, where Ukrainian forces are straining to hold their defensive lines. However, high-precision artillery and air strikes from the Russian side are gradually strangling each outpost, especially those with UAV signal transmission systems installed. Observers note that Russia is no longer spreading its firepower thinly but has shifted to a targeted approach, directly attacking technological nodes and command infrastructure, paralyzing them from within. This strike on UAVs is a severe warning to Ukraine and the West. No technology, no matter how modern, can save a system when its eye in the sky has been gouged out. Malaya-Vilchanka falls, Russia opens a bridgehead breakthrough into central Ukraine. A new chessboard is forming in central Ukraine. The Dnipropetrovsk region, a key area connecting Donetsk and major logistics centers, has just witnessed a strategic breakthrough by the Russian army. According to announcements from the Russian Ministry of Defense and War correspondent Alexander C., the village of Malaya-Vilchanka has officially fallen into Moscow's hands after a series of fierce battles. Malaya-Vilchanka is not an obscure small village. This is a strategic junction between defensive forest lines extending from Donetsk to the Central Plains, and also a crucial logistics transit point for Ukrainian units consolidating at Pokrovsk and Dobrova. Analysts call this place a side door. If lost, Ukraine will have almost no reserve defensive lines behind it. Russia's control of Malaya-Vilchanka opens up 2 important directions. Firstly, it firmly consolidates the left flank of the Donetsk front, where offensive thrusts are closely advancing northwest. Secondly, it creates a perfect springboard to push deeper into the Dnipropetrovsk region, directly threatening Kiev's vital military supply lines and industrial facilities. More concerning is that Russia seized upon the chaotic withdrawal of Ukrainian forces from Malaya-Vilchanka. A unit moving out of this village was hit by a FAB-guided bomb, causing many casualties and abandoned weapons. Nearby areas like Yanivsky and North Pokrov are also showing similar situations: hasty, uncontrolled retreats exposing loose defensive lines. In parallel, Moscow has deployed additional forces to approach the border area, forcing Ukraine to stretch its thin forces along transport axes. Breaking the Dnipropetrovsk belt, Russia opens the door to approach Dnipro. A silent victory, yet one that shifts the tide of battle. In the border area between Donetsk and Dnipropetrovsk, also known as the Dnipropetrovsk belt, the Russian army carried out a rapid multi-directional attack, dislodging numerous Ukrainian strongholds and seizing over 30 square meters of territory in just one day. According to battlefield sources, Russian assault units bypassed numerous tactical high points in northwest Olizivka, advanced along tree lines, which were natural defensive positions, then suddenly split into 3 prongs, penetrating deep into enemy lines. Important areas such as Zeleny 2, Yanta, and Dashin successively fell into Russian hands. The Ukrainian side was forced to withdraw from forward outposts to consolidate to the rear, avoiding encirclement and being cut off. What worries observers is not just the lost territory, but the strategic significance of the Dnipropetrovsk region. This is considered the last shield protecting the industrial factory system, warehousing, and a vital road leading to the city of Dnipro, which serves as the logistics and military transport hub for the entire eastern front of Ukraine. Analysts believe that losing the Dnipropetrovsk belt means opening the door for Moscow to approach Dnipro, thereby threatening Kiev's entire vital defensive axis. Once Russian forces establish a long-term presence here, artillery and UAV attacks will easily encircle military and economic infrastructure in central Ukraine. The pace of Russia's advance on this front is significantly increasing as they continuously seize more defensive strongholds and expand their control southwestward, without timely reinforcements. Ukraine risks being pierced through the middle by Moscow, dividing the front and breaking the defensive line horizontally. Russian UAVs sweep, Ukrainian UAV bases shattered under a rain of bombs and kamikaze drones. The Ukrainian battlefield has just witnessed a bloody display of modern warfare technology. Newly released videos from the Russian Ministry of Defense and the Sun Front War news site show that Ukrainian UAV bases were wiped out in a series of preemptive attacks using FPV UAVs and UMPK glide bombs, marking a dangerous escalation in electronic warfare and unmanned weaponry. On the Kharkiv, Donetsk, and Chernihiv fronts, Russian deployed FPV UAVs directly struck armored vehicles, soldiers, and Ukrainian field command posts. No longer single kamikaze weapons, these drones now operate in swarms, simultaneously locking onto targets and attacking from multiple directions, leaving Ukraine's defense system unable to react in time. Concurrently, Russian fighter jets equipped with UMPK-guided glide bombs accurately struck military strongholds, destroying SPGH Dana artillery positions, Western-supplied L-118 towed artillery, and numerous military trucks refueling and transporting UAVs in the Shi and Katarinivka regions. In just one day, Russia launched 142 waves of UAV and missile attacks directly targeting objectives, which are the backbone of Ukraine's defense system: UAV assembly points, ammunition depots, flight control stations, and mobile logistics strongholds. Notably, Russia is thoroughly implementing the tactic of destroying logistics first, then infantry. Instead of rushing into dense front lines, they cut off supply sources, causing Ukrainian units to lose communication, lack reconnaissance UAVs, artillery shells, and kamikaze drones, all while being encircled by Russian artillery. This dominance is not only due to the effectiveness of weapons but also stems from Russia's intelligence, reconnaissance, and coordination capabilities among attacking units. Russia's reconnaissance and electronic warfare are becoming increasingly sophisticated and lethal. Ukraine lost a UAV stronghold, but the cost was the fracturing of its entire defense network. Ukraine counterattacks fiercely, 122 Russian advances halted. Amidst the overwhelming wave of Russian firepower, Ukraine declares it is still fighting fiercely and holding its ground. In its updated report on July 26, the General Staff of Ukraine affirmed that it successfully repelled over 122 offensive thrusts from Slavyansk, Kupiansk, all the way to the strategic Dnipro region. According to Kiev, across the entire front, Ukrainian armed forces deployed over 1,300 kamikaze UAVs and conducted over 3,500 artillery strikes targeting Russian troop concentrations, armored vehicle depots, and logistics lines. This is a major effort to halt Moscow's increasingly rapid advance. A highlight in the report is that Ukraine has continuously changed its defensive tactics, shifting from entrenched defense to guerrilla warfare, ambushes, and lightning counterattacks, aiming to disrupt the enemy's offensive rhythm. The attacks by glide bombs, Garand UAVs, and Russian artillery are said to no longer achieve absolute effectiveness as before, as Ukrainian forces move quickly, disperse widely, and utilize terrain more flexibly. Nevertheless, international observers are not entirely optimistic. Independent sources from the West and some battlefield monitoring organizations suggest that Ukraine's defense system is being stretched to its limit, especially in areas bordering Donetsk and the industrial center of Poltava, which are subjected to intense firepower from UAVs and long-range missiles. A military expert from the US-based Institute for the Study of War ISW noted that Ukraine might be holding up well on the map, but the cost is a terrible attrition of personnel, equipment and the ability to maintain reactive firepower. Help. Given Russia's continuous strikes on logistics and UAV command links, Ukraine's ability to maintain its defensive rhythm is noteworthy. However, if Moscow continues to tighten high-tech pressure as it is now, Kiev's ability to sustain counterattacks will be increasingly challenged. A Tu-35 Nudol, the silent missile that breaks spatial order. In a world where every war map is gradually shifting to the digital sky, the name Tu-35 Nudol has suddenly appeared like an earthquake, quietly, unmentioned by Western media for many years, even once labeled as a Russian conspiracy theory. But now, Nudol has officially appeared in the Pentagon's urgent warning documents, and has become a top strategic threat to NATO. Unlike conventional missile defense systems designed to intercept ballistic warheads flying into territory, the Tu-35 was born with a more special goal: to take down satellites in orbit, a place where everything seemed safe and beyond the reach of traditional firepower, but with the sky is no longer a safe haven. Previously, the world was shaken when Russia's old Cosmos 1408 satellite was shot down just 18 minutes after the missile was fired. The target was hit and shattered into over 1,500 pieces, forcing the International Space Station ISS to activate emergency defense mode. The incident quickly stunned space powers, not because a satellite was destroyed, but because of Russia's ability to do so, with such precision and speed. However, that was just the tip of the iceberg. According to US defense analysts, since the test, hundreds of Starlink satellites, a key platform in the modern battlefield information system of the US and NATO, suddenly lost signal. At the same time, 2 Russian Su-35s disappeared from all early warning systems while patrolling near Baltic airspace. Red alerts were immediately activated at many Western military headquarters. But the most powerful blow was the subsequent statement from the Kremlin. Russia has completed testing of the long-range nuclear-powered Burevestnik Missile, a weapon capable of unlimited flight and absolute stealth. When three events followed one another in just a few weeks, international strategists no longer considered it a coincidence. The question is not, but rather, is Moscow actively rewriting the entire rules of space warfare? Without firing a shot, Russia still gains absolute superiority in space. For decades, the doctrine of winning without war was a strategic pride of the United States. But now, Russia is quietly realizing that very doctrine, in a way that stuns Washington. Without deploying troops abroad, without flaunting its forces, and especially without firing a single shot, Russia can still do something unprecedented. Turn off the entire digital sky of the West with just an invisible button. The weapon for this silent revolution is none other than the A-235 Nudol, a system that is not just an anti-satellite missile but a comprehensive space warfare network, integrated with long-range early warning radars, high-speed orbital computing systems and interception algorithms capable of real-time operation. With its mobile design, Nudol can detect, lock onto, and precisely strike any satellite in low orbit, even when it is moving at speeds over 28,000 kilometers per hour. But what makes Western cyber warfare command centers break out in a cold sweat is that Nudol doesn't need to launch a missile to destroy. According to many leaked intelligence documents, Russia has developed a directed electromagnetic attack mode, allowing it to disable sensor systems, cut off data connections, and turn Western military satellites into useless floating chunks of metal in space. No explosions, no malware, no infiltration campaigns. Just a silent frequency band that causes NATO to lose its bearings. When over 80% of Western military infrastructure, from UAV guidance, missile positioning, operational command to smart weapon control, relies on satellites, Nudol's capability is like an invisible hand drawing a curtain of darkness over the entire digitized military strategy of the US and NATO. Without needing to enter the battlefield, Russia is still gaining absolute supremacy, right in orbit. Burevestnik, the silent nuclear ghost from the highest level of warfare. If the A-235 Nudol is the sword that severs orbital positioning links, then Burevestnik is the silent nuclear dagger, capable of stabbing an opponent in the back from any direction, even from places considered impenetrable like the North Pole. It is not just a weapon, but the embodiment of an entirely new military doctrine, where silence is the most terrifying roar. The name Burevestnik in Russian means storm petrel, and indeed, it is precisely the technological storm sweeping across the global strategic chessboard. This is a long-range cruise missile equipped with a miniature nuclear propulsion engine, allowing it to fly for virtually unlimited durations without refueling, unbound by fixed trajectories. And most importantly, its flight path cannot be predicted. Unlike all conventional cruise missiles that follow predetermined routes, Burevestnik can circle its target, change its trajectory at any time, and approach from unconventional directions where US and NATO early warning radars are not set up. With that capability, it easily penetrates defense layers optimized for straight-line attack models. Additionally, Burevestnik can carry a nuclear warhead, making it not just a tactical weapon but an absolute strategic deterrent symbol. With just one timely activation, a single strike, the entire central command and control system as well as the enemy's response capability can be completely paralyzed, even before they detect a threat. Western analysts call it a ghost missile that leaves no heat signature, does not appear on radar, and can lurk for weeks in the air and strike the target at any time. In the context of modern warfare shifting from geography to frequency, Burevestnik is the silent trump card, designed not for display, but to reshape the global balance of power. Not artillery, this is the invisible battle of electronic pulses. While many still imagine war as battlefields of smoke and fire, where artillery roars and fighter jets streak across the sky, Russia is quietly opening a new front, a war without explosions, where weapons are electronic signals and victory comes from the silent disappearance of the enemy. On June 12, in the Baltic airspace, two Russian Su-35 fighter jets conducted a routine patrol flight. They did not violate NATO airspace, nor did they engage in provocative behavior. But just minutes later, both disappeared completely from the surveillance radars of Western air defense systems. No attack signals, no heat signatures, no positioning data. They simply ceased to exist in the eyes of the NATO system. Immediately, the Pentagon convened an emergency meeting, NATO issued a high-level alert, and many security experts described it. This is an unprecedented electronic warfare event. According to many military reports, the cause is believed to be Russia's long-range strategic electronic warfare systems with equipment such as Razhga-E, Krasnoa-4, or Mans-BN. These weapons do not destroy targets, nor do they need to shoot them down. They simply completely blind enemy radars, prevent satellites from receiving signals, and render control systems useless like an empty shell. Metaphorically, this is warfare through deadly silence. When the attacked party doesn't even know they've been attacked, that deadly silence doesn't stop in the air. According to statistics from public sources in the US, in 2023 alone, as many as 560 Starlink satellites lost signal or no longer responded to positioning. This number far exceeds the normal technical error margin, leading many experts to question: is this a technological error or a deliberate jamming campaign? Leaving no trace, Russia acts in deadly silence. In any modern conflict, evidence is the ultimate political weapon. But what bewilders the West even more about Russia's strategy is the inability to prove anything. No missiles flying into territory, no satellite debris falling to the ground, not a single line of malicious code traced. Only silence and disappearance. Surveillance radars suddenly lose signal. Military satellites no longer respond. Aircraft rendered invisible not by technology, but by some invisible force, temporarily blinding the entire Western surveillance system. The attacks are silent, leave no burn marks, and do not trigger alarms. All clues are gradually converging on a mysterious name, but one that is increasingly terrifying in military analysis circles. Rajaga. Russia's new generation electronic warfare complex. This device is said to use directed pulsed waves, creating an electronic white zone where all communication, navigation, GPS positioning, and radar equipment are temporarily but absolutely neutralized. When signals are cut off, the command system is isolated. Then even with a full arsenal of advanced weapons, the West is no different from a blind person wielding a knife in the dark, powerful but disoriented, dangerous but helpless. Russia doesn't need to declare war, they just need to make their opponent unable to see the battlefield, and that is the most terrifying strike of the digital age. Washington struggles, Moscow is silent but controls every chessboard. While US media is still caught up in debates about the debt ceiling, defense spending cuts, and confrontations between the House and Senate, in Moscow, a comprehensive military digitalization strategy has quietly taken shape, without fanfare, without obstacles, but extremely consistent. The biggest difference lies in the operational approach. Russia doesn't need to make strong declarations. They don't burn money to showcase technology at international arms fairs. Russia chooses a quiet but effective approach. Please subscribe to GN Go channel so you don't miss exciting videos. From design and testing to combat deployment, every process is contained domestically. No reliance on Asian chips, no import of components from Europe, no fear of global supply chain disruptions. More importantly, Russia's political system is not constrained by election cycles or periodic government changes like in the West. Once a military project is approved, it goes straight into practical implementation. Without needing to go through dozens of layers of evaluation, assessment, and reconsideration as in Washington. There is no Congress to obstruct, no media to pressure public opinion, and certainly no lobbyists to dilute defense strategy. While the US is still meeting to decide whether to increase its defense budget, Russia has already deployed new radar complexes and is ready for the next war. No need for debate, Moscow doesn't talk much, but they are controlling the game through action. From the mad doctrine to the era of invisibility and ineffectiveness. Throughout the Cold War, the mutual assured destruction mad doctrine was the nuclear umbrella that kept the two superpowers, Russia and the US, from falling into an apocalyptic spiral. It was a fragile balance. If one side attacked first, both would be destroyed. But that doctrine was based on the assumption that the opponent would always detect the strike and have enough time to react. Now, with the emergence of new weapons like Burevestnik, the stealth nuclear-powered cruise missile, Rajaga, the radar-blinding complex, or Nudol, the orbital anti-satellite system, the entire foundation of the mad doctrine is being eroded from within. These weapons not only strike quickly and powerfully but also target the enemy's ability to perceive. Because if you cannot detect an attack, you cannot counterattack in time. And that is when all classical deterrence doctrines collapse in modern warfare. The victor is no longer the one with more aircraft carriers, nor the one with more warheads, but the one who blinds the opponent, making them unable to see, hear, or command their weapons. Russia is building precisely that doctrine, invisible so as not to be detected, ineffective so as not to allow the enemy to react in time. No need to pull the trigger, no need for a preemptive strike, just make the opponent unable to fight. And in the digital age, that is the ultimate victory. The world changes roles, Russia controls the game, the West is lost. A former US general once bitterly exclaimed, "Russia doesn't strike often, but it always strikes in the right place." That statement is no longer a strategic warning but has become a haunting reality, present in every lost satellite signal, every distorted digital map on Western operational screens. In the latest reports from 2024, two leading think tanks, RAND Corporation and Atlantic Council, simultaneously warned that if Russia continues its current pace of defense technology development, in less than a decade, by 2030, the global strategic balance will no longer favor Washington. What is more frightening is not the number of missiles, aircraft carriers, or naval bases. The real threat comes from a shift in strategic thinking. Russia no longer plays by the old rules, where victory is measured by the number of artillery shells or fleets. They rewrite the rules by targeting the first link: command, information, and control capabilities. No need to fire shots, no need to seize land. Russia only needs to disorient the opponent. Unable to see, unable to connect, unable to react. And when combat capability is paralyzed at its root, all remaining superweapons are just soulless machines. In this new game, the world has changed roles. Russia does not declare victory, but they are controlling every move, while the West can only react belatedly and in confusion. NATO's psychological blow elicits a chilling response from Moscow. July 17, 2025, a seemingly ordinary day in the European summer, unexpectedly became a red alert milestone in global military circles. General Christopher Donahue, commander of U.S. Army Europe and Africa, bluntly stated to the media that, if necessary, NATO could seize control of Kaliningrad and do so faster than ever before. The statement, seemingly a psychological tactic, immediately sent shockwaves through the international political arena. Kaliningrad, Russia's strategic fortress in the heart of Europe, already a potential flashpoint, has now been officially included in NATO's public operational scenarios. According to General Donahue, this military alliance not only can but has already prepared ground attack plans, ready to apply technology and coordinate multi-branch forces to penetrate Russia's dense defense layers in this region. But as confident as NATO was, the Kremlin's response was just as cold, chillingly so. Nikolai Patrushev, a close aide to President Putin, immediately warned that Kaliningrad is sacred Russian territory. Any military action targeting this region will be considered an act of aggression and will be crushed without mercy by all forces and means, including nuclear. That statement was not just a protest. It was a strategic declaration, a reminder of a red line that, if crossed, NATO would pay with its very existence. Furthermore, the chairman of the Russian State Duma's Foreign Affairs Committee, Leonid Slutsky, affirmed that attacking Kaliningrad is no different from pressing the button to start World War III. Russia will show no mercy. And once Moscow is pushed against the wall, the retaliation will know no bounds. In this gunpowder-laden game, it is clear that both sides understand that whoever makes the first move might not have a way back. Kaliningrad, Russia's unsinkable steel fortress right in the heart of NATO. If there is one piece of land that makes the entire West hesitate every time they redraw the strategic map of Europe, it is Kaliningrad, Russia's small but powerful territory, located between Poland and Lithuania, right in the center of the NATO military alliance. With an area of only about 15,000 square kilometers, Kaliningrad was once East Prussia, a land with a bloody history, closely linked to the German Empire. After the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II, this place was annexed by the Soviet Union according to the Potsdam Agreement in 1945. The city of Königsberg, its former capital, was renamed Kaliningrad in honor of Mikhail Kalinin, one of the Bolshevik leaders. What makes Kaliningrad special is not just its history, but its impossible geographical location. Located separately from the rest of Russia, with no land connection, yet strategically positioned right in the center of NATO, Kaliningrad is like a Russian steel wedge driven into the heart of Europe, ready to unleash fire when needed. Moscow makes no secret of its goal to militarize this region. In Kaliningrad, Russia deploys its Baltic Sea Fleet, modern S-400 air defense missile systems, Iskander medium-range tactical missiles, and especially Kinzhal hypersonic missiles capable of carrying nuclear warheads and hitting targets in just minutes. Just a few hundred kilometers from Berlin, Warsaw, and Vilnius, Kaliningrad is Russia's nuclear fist. Always ready to launch a lightning strike if full-scale war breaks out. Not only that, it is also Russia's only ice-free seaport in the Baltic region during winter, ensuring year-round logistical supply, weapon transfers, and force deployment capabilities. Military experts call Kaliningrad an unsinkable aircraft carrier. A floating fortress armored with missiles, artillery, and Russia's determination to fight to the death. Suwalki, a strategic weak point that could split NATO in two. If Kaliningrad is Russia's nuclear fist in the heart of Europe, then the Suwalki Corridor is its jugular, where, if choked, the entire NATO alliance on the eastern flank could be severed in an instant. The Suwalki Gap is a narrow strip of land, approximately 65 kilometers long, located between Poland and Lithuania, connecting two crucial NATO enclaves. But for Russia, this place is the only bridge for trade and reinforcement from Belarus to Kaliningrad. Two allied territories that Moscow considers vital. That is why Western analysts call Suwalki NATO's fatal weakness. Because if the Russian army gains control of this corridor, they could completely cut off the three Baltic states from the rest of the NATO bloc, while also locking down the supply lines from the west into Eastern Europe. This scenario is no longer theoretical. In exercises conducted by both sides, NATO and Russia, Suwalki always appears as the focal point of either an all-out offensive or defensive strategy. Since 2016, NATO has deployed permanent military units to Poland and Lithuania, building logistics infrastructure and supply facilities around the corridor area. This clearly shows that the Western Bloc has recognized the extreme risk if Suwalki falls into Moscow's hands. The situation became even more tense when, in mid-2025, Lithuania unilaterally decided to block the railway transit of goods from Russia to Kaliningrad, citing the application of economic sanctions as directed by Brussels. But for Russia, this was a disguised quasi-military blockade, sparking a series of sharp reactions from the Kremlin. Moscow condemned this action as a serious violation of post-war agreements and declared it would respond proportionally in all forms, including military. While Western media tries to avoid the word war, the actions on the ground suggest otherwise. Suwalki is becoming a dangerous flashpoint, where a single wrong order could push all of Europe into direct confrontation with Russia.